Hi, I'm Blake Alexander, and this is my Module 13 for EDL 850 on tort liability. So define tort liability. The wrongful actions of an individual or entity which cause injury to another individual's or entity's person, property, or reputation, and which entitle the injured party to compensation. So there's two types of tort. There's intentional tort and negligent tort. Intentional tort, it says, is an offense committed by an individual who intends to do harm to another person or understands that her actions may cause harm. So something like battery or grabbing somebody that you know could possibly harm them. So that would be intentional tort. Negligent tort, it says failure to exercise the standard of care that a reasonably prudent person would have exercised in a similar situation. So this is the type of tort that most often happens in schools and that schools get sued for, and it also happens to teachers. It's the most common type that somebody's going to come after a teacher for being negligent, which leads to somebody becoming injured or hurt. And the last thing I have on this slide, it says school officials owe students the duty to provide reasonable supervision and educational instruction and maintain an educational environment free of obvious dangers. So my first case was Flanagan versus Canton Central School District. In this case, it was a gym class. There were students misbehaving in the class. The teacher stopped the class early, set all the students down, was talking to them, kind of lecturing them about their behavior, and then he sent them to the locker room a little bit early before they ended class. When they were in there, Flanagan, one of the students, was pushed from behind, falling down, hitting his head and causing injury. So in this case, the court actually ruled in favor of Flanagan because the situation was deemed foreseeable, because they're leading up to what happened, there was misbehavior and things like that, and so they thought that he should have been in the locker room supervising these students. So some ways to be proactive: better supervision in the locker room, and also awareness when the students are misbehaving or there is an issue going on, that really is the time to step in and make sure you're supervising those kids. Professional ethics, always supervise students in the locker room. At schools, one of the biggest places that there are problems is in the locker rooms, and there always has to be somebody in there when a group of students are in there. That should just be the rule on that. And then at my school, I work at an elementary school, so we don't use locker rooms. But, at the schools that do have them, I've coached at the high schools and things like that, and we are always supposed to have somebody in the locker room to help with supervision at all times. So. All right, next case, it says Frame versus Comics. So in this case, Frame was an 8th grade student. Comics was filling in for a science teacher and giving a spelling test. He had already removed 2 disruptive students from the class that were talking and messing around during the test. So after this, Frame was later disruptive during the test that he shouted out loudly. He was asked twice to leave the room, and he refused to. So Comics, the teacher, walked up to the desk, and then Frame kind of stood up and faced him. Comics then grabbed him by the arm, and the student ended up falling down, fell into a podium, and stumbled backwards and fell into some other things. And in this case, the court found that Comics had committed battery. He did put his hands on a student, but it was justified because he was trying to facilitate and maintain order in his classroom, and trying to make it the learning environment a place where the students could actually learn. So this was actually would fall under intentional tort liability, because he actually did put his hands on somebody and tried to forcefully remove them from the classroom. So to be proactive, better classroom management would help, because of course the students were being disrupted during the class. Procedures for disruptive students in the school. So hey, if you have a kid that is defiant and disruptive, what do you do? And then knowledge about when you can actually touch students. because this is a case where I would never put my hands on a student. And what I would do, like it says on my school on here, is I would call an administrator or have the office call for a police officer to help escort the student out. I'm currently in a large district, and situations like this do happen. And when they do, we usually call the admin, and then the admin will do what they can. And if that doesn't work, they will have a campus police officer come and help escort the student. And yeah, as far as professional ethics go, I just don't think that you should ever put your hands on a student unless it's to keep somebody from getting hurt or injured. All right, next case, Johnson versus School District of Millard. In this case, a first grader was injured in a music class. They were playing London Bridges for the first time. The student was thrown into a shelf by two other students who were playing too rough in the game, and the teacher was found to be negligent. So in this case, the teacher started a new game. It was their first day playing it. And then while the students were playing the game, she had her back to the students. She was working on the board, wasn't probably paying as close to the students as attention to the students as she should have. They started rocking the student into the shelves and caused some pretty major damage, like 50 stitches and things like that. So to be proactive in this situation, move out of your classroom. If this is the type of game you want to play, I think if you could try to go to a gym or to a different area or outside, that would be a much safer place to play this type of game than playing it in the classroom. Also, you're doing a new game where students are touching other students, and you need to give them your full attention in that time. You need to be making sure that they're doing it right and they're not playing too rough. And the other choice to be proactive is to evaluate this game and see, hey, was this a good game for me to be playing at all? Professional ethics, again, supervise students. This is the first time you're playing a game. Then you probably should be making sure you're keeping your eye on your students during this game, and not kind of just trusting that they will do it successfully on the first time. My school, if this situation did happen, they would probably be asking why we were playing this game in the classroom. They would be asking why somebody didn't catch this a little bit sooner. This is a situation where somebody really got injured, and the teacher had the student's best interest in mind, was trying to teach them probably something fun and new, and an accident led to somebody getting hurt. So it's just a really tough situation, and the only thing is that the teacher could have supervised them a little bit better. But ultimately, the students made a bad decision, and because the teacher wasn't watching, somebody was hurt. All right, so Evans versus Oaks Mission Public School. So in this case, Raymond Evans, he was injured during a physical education class at a public high school. He had 2 prior shoulder injuries. And so when he was going in his year, I think it was his junior year, he wasn't supposed to participate in any sports. He started off the year, I think it was in a family living class or a home ec class, and then did get transferred into a PE class. So during this PE class, it was a football-based PE class, so they had weightlifting, and once a week they would play a game or something like that. And in this class, they were wrestling. He hurts his shoulder again, so they tried to sue the coaches, everybody that was involved with the PE program or the football program, and then also tried to sue the school. And the only one that really got to the court was them suing the school for negligence. And so to be proactive on this, communication with parents, I feel like, the student along with the faculty should have known what he was allowed to do and what he shouldn't have been doing. If he has 2 shoulders injuries and he was not cleared to do any athletic activities, then both parties should have known that. So like I said, communication with the parents, know what they want and or allow them to do, and restrictions from the nurse or doctor. I know at my school, if we have a student that's injured or has been out for being injured, we will not let them come back to PE until they've been cleared by a doctor. We have that note. So I don't know if in this case if they had the note or not. Professional ethics. So I kind of feel like when you're go to wrestle or you're doing PE or doing these activities, if you don't have a note saying that you cannot do them, then there is an implied assumption of risk. As they say, there's a possibility of getting hurt in these things. And then I feel like as the coaches, just having good knowledge of that student, talking with that student about his injuries probably could have helped too. All right, so Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. In this case, a special education student left school early and skipped class. The student was raped off of school grounds, and the school did not contact the parent to inform them of their child's absence until after the school day had ended. So the kid left school. They recorded that she was missed a class, but did not notify the parents when this happened. So to be proactive in this, so communication with parents would be a big thing. I feel like, especially for a special education student, in this case, having support staff there and people around her in the SPED department, I feel like if that person would just have skipped a class, somebody should have known right away to contact the parents. And having those procedures in place would have been something to be proactive, what to do in case of a situation like this. Professional ethics, proper supervision of SPED students. I feel like somebody should have known something was wrong when that student didn't come to class. I'm sure that part of this student's IEP plan, they have certain adults that they work with in that building. I feel like somebody should have known something was up. And in my district, it's a large district, I feel like this could happen. Students at the high school, they skip class all the time. People leave, but I feel like our SPED department would do a good job of keeping track of these students and knowing something was up if somebody was gone. And there are my references, and thank you.